Carpenter bees can be extremely destructive to your home in the spring and summer months, as well as just being a big nuisance and difficult to get rid of. The most effective way to get rid of carpenter bees is to use a carpenter bee trap. In this video, we're going to be making homemade carpenter bee traps that look like this. It might not be the prettiest trap in the world. I made most of this with one hand as I was trying to film with the other, but it sure does work. Let's jump right into how to do it. Here's a rough blueprint for those of you that are visual learners. I apologize for the formatting of the next videos. I filmed everything vertically on my phone and wasn't able to flip it horizontally without it zooming in too far. For our trap, I used a scrap piece of 4x4 that I had, and I cut it down to about 5 inches in length. Our first step is to drill the main chamber in the center of the bottom of our block. So I just marked the middle and I used a 3/4 inch spade bit to drill this hole. I apologize for the shakiness. I was filming everything with one hand and then trying to drill with the other hand. You'll want to drill about halfway, or about 2.5 to 3 inches into your 4x4 block. Once you're done, you'll have your nice centered hole and you'll have to empty some of the sawdust to clean it out. Next up is drilling the side holes that connect to the main chamber. You'll be drilling 4 of these holes, one on each side face of the block. I actually moved down to a 1/2 inch spade bit for this side portion, but you can still use the 3/4 inch bit if you want to. These chambers are actually going to be diagonal rather than straight across. So I like to start my bit by getting it into the wood straight on, and then begin to angle it and try to connect at a 45-degree angle, but as long as it's angled, that's the main goal. The reason I switched down to the 1/2 inch spade bit is it was a little easier to control one-handed and overall just easier to get that angle that we're looking for. When you're done, you'll have to remove a bunch of sawdust, but all of these side chambers should connect to the main chamber and funnel down towards the bottom hole. Alright, we're almost done with our build, and now we just need to attach the mason jar to our wood block. I ended up using 1/2 inch wood screws to screw the lid of the jar into the bottom of the block. I've also seen designs where they simply glue the mason jar to the bottom of the block. This one was a little off center because I was doing it one-handed, but the general idea is to center the jar and connect it with our main chamber hole. When you're done, you'll have a block with a hole on each side and a main chamber hole at the bottom connected to that mason jar. The overall goal is that carpenter bees will crawl into the side holes of the wood. They would much prefer a pre-made hole rather than having to drill holes themselves, so they'll be attracted to your wood block. Once they enter the side holes, they will climb down into the main chamber, fall into the mason jar, and they'll be unable to get back out. Depending how and where you're placing your carpenter bee traps, you might want to add a hook onto the top or use a staple to attach it around your porch and around the eaves and siding of your home. Depending on the size of your home and the severity of your carpenter bee infestation, you might want to make multiple of these traps and hang them at different positions around your home. If you're still struggling with carpenter bees after hanging a few of these traps, in my next video I'll be explaining how to make carpenter bee bait, which will attract carpenter bees to your traps. I personally have had good success without using bait, but it is a nice added measure. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please visit thepestinformer.com for any other pest infestation tips and tricks.